It's a trap. Well, what the heck does that mean? What does that mean? Last night, if you watched Biden's speech and you knew what you were looking for, it was a carefully crafted speech. In some regards, a little schizophrenic. We are a nation that, if I can quote, has had the plague on America of systematic racism, and yet we're the greatest country in the world. I mean, the speechwriter, I heard that he went to his psychiatrist the other day and said, you know, I'm hearing voices, and his psychiatrist said, you don't have a psychiatrist. So it's a little schizophrenic, but it was only schizophrenic because they were saying the things that people want to hear and then saying the things they have to say to be able to have a complete storyline in the end. This is probably the most important speech a president has given, and it's the biggest warning any progressive, Marxist, anyone who wants to thwart America has ever given. I need you to pay attention to this speech today. If you want to be prepared for what's coming, you have to pay attention to this speech, but in a different way. There are 4 things that he set up, and I'll go through them. First, white supremacy is a plague, and it is the biggest danger. In fact, he said, white supremacists are the most lethal threat to America. How do you define a white supremacist? Anyone who denies that there is some sort of, white indoctrination and, systematic racism. If you deny those things, you are a racist, a white supremacist. And so that is a threat. Second thing, he's questioning whether our democracy works. He wants it to work. He wants it to work. But he's not sure if it does. Third, China is the threat and the model, and they are not waiting around. 4, we have to act now, or our system doesn't work. Now, let me go through this. First, if you're a white supremacist, you believe in the republic. You believe in the system of merit, that we should be judged not by our skin color, but by the content of our character. You believe in the founding documents. You believe that the amendments are absolute. Those rights are absolute. They come from God, not the government. That is going to be more and more defined as a white supremacist. Now, when he said our democracy doesn't work, you have to understand what he told the press before the speech. CNN reported, and I'm going to quote the president. CNN reported that before the speech, President Biden got together with a few of the elite media and had a conversation with them. This is so Woodrow Wilson. It's terrifying to me. You know, if you've listened to me for any time, I hate Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson was a racist and an absolute danger to the republic. He's the guy that really started this ball rolling, and it was the final move. The final chess pieces are being put onto the table right now. So he met with the trusted news sources, and they do that so they can bring them in and so they can explain it to the dumb American people. Now, here's what he said, according to CNN, and I quote, and I really believe, because I've spoken with over, I guess, 25, 30 heads of state, including Putin, including President Z. I had a 2-hour conversation with President Z. And I've been convinced for a long time, ... Look, I doubt whether most of you would agree with me, but I think we're going to... Look, they're going to write about this point in history, not about any of us here, but about whether democracy can function in the 21st century. What is he saying here? He's saying a lot. I've been convinced for a long time. Convinced of what? He stops. He never finishes that. Then he says, I doubt whether most of you would agree with me. About what? That they're going to write about this point in history, not about any of us here, but whether or not democracy can function in the 21st century. I would agree with that. Who wouldn't agree with that? The historians are going to look back at this time and say that's what was being decided. That's not controversial. What's controversial is what he didn't finish. I've been convinced for a long time. He says they're going to write about us, not about us here, but whether or not democracy can function in the 21st century. Then he says, not a joke. Whether autocracy is the answer. They were my discussions and debates that I've had many times that I've met with President Z. Think about it. You know, things are moving so damn rapidly. Things are changing so rapidly in the world, in science and technology and a whole range of other issues, that the question is, in a democracy that's such a genius as ours, can you get a consensus in the time frame that can compete with autocracy? This tells you everything you need to know. He and his people do not agree. Neither did Woodrow Wilson. Neither did Mussolini. Neither did Hitler. Neither did Stalin. Neither did the New York Times. Back in the 1930s, this was exactly the conversation. And it started really with Wilson. Science was happening. Things were moving quickly. If we go to war, can we build a war machine fast enough? We need to have an autocracy because they can say, everybody make bullets. We're going to war. So it's centralized and it's directed by the government. So you can change on a dime. But that's not our system. By the way, we were never going to be able to catch up with Germany. In 1941, we were so far away from being prepared for that war, especially against Germany, which had the best planes, the best tanks, the best of everything. By 1944, the American free market kicked its ass. So this is not a new idea. So what is he saying? He is setting up before the speech, I think we all should question our democracy. Then in the speech, he sets the trap. He's saying people are questioning. He's not saying him. He's saying people are questioning all around the world. Can a democracy work? So that's the framework of the speech. So every time that he said, you'll notice he said it a lot, the world won't wait. We've got to make these changes now. Quoting, I'd like to meet with those who have ideas that are different, I think, and that they think are better. I welcome those ideas. But the rest of the world is not waiting for us. I want to be clear. Doing nothing is not an option. We can't be so busy competing with one another that we forget that the competition we have here is the rest of the world to win the 21st century. Then he goes in another time. I've traveled with President Z, blah, blah, blah. He's deadly earnest about becoming the most significant, consequential nation in the world. He and others, the autocrats, think democracy can't compete. Then he later says, the world is caught up or catching up. They're not waiting. I would say if we are sitting down and putting a bipartisan committee together and we said, okay, we have to now decide what we're going to do in terms of government providing free education, I wonder what we'd think. Well, we wouldn't have that conversation under a republic. Constitutional republic, you don't have that conversation. He also started the first 14 minutes. I can't tell you how many times. Go back and watch it if you can. He kept saying that it was the people in that room. You made the difference. You are saving lives. You are the reason we are getting past COVID. You are the reason why our economy is coming back. Not the American people, but Congress. He said over and over again, we have to have the courage to act now. We can't wait. He made it very clear China is the threat and the possible model if we can't get our crap together. The fourth thing was we have to change. And we are competing, so we have to act right now. And I want this to happen. But we got to act right now because the world won't wait. The whole theme of this was crisis and opportunity. That's how he started it. Crisis and opportunity. So let me tell you what's going to happen. Give me a 1 minute break, and then I'll come back and tell you how this is a trap and how it's all going to play out in the playbook. There are very few times that I'm on the air and I just know. I know it's right. I'm telling you, I know this is right. I know this is right. Please pay attention to this. I'll tell you how it's going to play out here in just a second. So this is what's happening. I need you to understand the first thing he said was this is a crisis and an opportunity. The opportunity is to change, to transform. He then spent an hour making the case on why we need to transform, because the world has changed. All of that is true, but he's not questioning. But people are questioning whether democracy can make it in the 21st century. And so he laid down a challenge. Now, he didn't say it this way, but if you go back and read the speech, you will see it clearly is implied all the way through. What he's saying is our democracy doesn't work because it's too slow. And so we have all of these things. We have the chance right now to heal our country from white supremacy. And all we have to do is pass this bill right now. Put it on my desk. Let me sign it. But do it now. We have the chance to heal our wounded economy. But the only way to do it is to pass this $2 trillion bill. And you've got to do it right now because the world's not going to wait. The world is going to pass us. So when these things are slowed down, when these things are not passing, or they're not passing in a bipartisan fashion, which they will not, and not because they're playing political games, but because these things are dangerous and deadly. It's poison. It's poison. He will then make the case, this doesn't work. That's why we need to have the Supreme Court reformed. If there's any obstacle in slowing these things down, that will be the case. The world will not wait. We're going to be passed. It's too slow. It doesn't work. It's why they will pass remember what he said a few weeks ago? It's all about timing. It's all about timing. So when he says we have to pass, the filibuster, he's not there. He's not there. He's still looking at it. He's got some people looking into that. What he's waiting for is something, maybe 2 or 3 things not to pass that he says are really important. And when they don't pass because of Republicans, that's when he will go after the filibuster. And he will make the case that democracy, the way we have it, is too slow. Our Constitution is built to slow Washington down, because they know a fast government can take rights away from people at the blink of an eye. And we know that to be true because of COVID. All of these things that he outlined last night, basically it's this. If you believe in the Republic, you are a threat to the nation, and we will find you and stop you. The implication here is, because I'm not a white supremacist, I don't believe in white supremacy, I don't like white supremacists, I don't know any, but I think they're a real danger. But that's not what he's talking about. I wish he were talking about that, but that's not the biggest threat to our democracy. There's what? Let's be generous. 5,000, 10,000, 100,000 of them? That's the biggest threat our democracy has ever seen? That's ridiculous. You and I both know it. So the implied threat is you get on the bandwagon or you will be hunted by us. Second thing, when we pass these things, it's a trap. You will work for the government. The government will allow you to create a union, so you'll have a good-paying union job. The government will then direct through a public-private partnership what you're going to be doing. Oh, and by the way, what you're going to be doing is changing every house in America. We're going to go and rebuild those bad water lines in 400 schools, and that's going to change the world. Then, as a gift also to the labor unions, our children are going to go to school for 2 to 4 more years. That has nothing to do with our kids. That has everything to do with the labor unions and indoctrination. So your kids will be indoctrinated by this labor union. You will be working for the government, and you will be silenced if you don't agree. And anyone who stands in the way congressionally, through the court system, we will take action against it because the world won't wait. We're at a critical point. Well, we are at a critical point, and this is the point we decide whether we are going to be free or not. I would put my money on the table and never bet against a free America. The entrepreneur and the spirit of America. I would never bet against that, especially against any autocratic rule. It might look bad for a time, but if we are free and the government is out of our way, there is nothing we can't accomplish.